man, kind of threw me off. Wasn't expecting that on Saturday. And there were a lot of things I wasn't expecting that I think happened on Saturday. But I was just very surprised of how the Lakers looked. Very, very surprised. The way they came out, I just was expecting something completely different than the product that we were served on Saturday. It's like everyone's hyping this phenomenal restaurant. Everybody's like, hey, you got to go to this restaurant. I've been to it 5-6 times. It's great. The service is phenomenal. The food is phenomenal. You will not be disappointed. You got to go to this restaurant. I get to the restaurant. I'm waiting around for somebody to seat me. The service is awful. They finally bring the food out. My food is cold. I don't know what is going on. I'm watching the game on Saturday. I'm like, what the hell happened to the Lakers team that I thought that I was going to be watching in game one of the playoffs? Someone like myself who's hyping up these games all the time. Obviously, Luca's first playoff game. What were we saying? We were saying it was the first Lakers were hosting a first-round playoff game at home since 2012. Obviously, 2020, Lakers were in Orlando. They were in the bubble, so they didn't get a chance to host. But you're putting all these pieces together. And I'm walking into that place. Even the start of the game, the way the Lakers started, Luca comes out, kind of firing on all cylinders, finding other players. Rui's hitting threes. Lakers go up maybe 7 points, something like that. It might have been a little bit more, but I remember specifically there was a stage of the game where it was 28-21, and Lakers just looked like, all right, they're in control of this game, and they're going to handle business. I know it's early in the game, but you like the way the game was starting. Second quarter starts. Lakers get outscored 26-6 in the first, I don't know how many minutes of the second quarter. I mean, I'm looking around, and by the time I went down to the media room, I grabbed a cup of tea or whatever the heck I got, and I'm working my way back. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? What the hell happened to this game? Anything that you expected, I didn't expect it. And if people want to put their predictions and say, I knew this was going to happen. All right, you're Nostradamus. I'm not. I didn't see that coming on Monday. I really, really didn't. Very, very surprised how bad the Lakers looked. Thought there would be great energy. That wasn't the case. Thought the stars would shine. That wasn't the case. Thought the Lakers would try to send a message. That wasn't the case. Instead, the Lakers just got punked. I mean, if I could simplify this year, we've all watched sports before, or you can figure out what the best analogy is. But if this was a boxing match and the Lakers just, they came out, kind of came from their corner, feeling good, jumping all over the place, couple of combos here and there, and then they took one to the chin, and you kind of looking into their eyes, and it's like, are they already defeated? Yes, Lakers took one good punch from the Minnesota Timberwolves in the chin, and they basically went back to their corner and was like, I don't know about this one. I didn't know he could punch like that. All right, but are you going to do anything about it? I'm not sure. I mean, I was kind of shocked with, obviously how things happen. The actual game part of it. Where was LeBron? Where was Austin Reeves? Where was the Lakers bench? If you go look at Dorian Finney-Smith and go look at Gabe Vincent, those are the two guys that I would say from an offensive perspective you think are going to contribute. Where the hell were they? Vando, I thought did everything he could from a defensive perspective, trying to give energy to the team. I didn't think anybody else showed up. Luca had one assist, and it ain't on Luca. Trust me, it's not. 30-plus points for him. He's going to need a lot more help. But one assist from Luca, 4 assists total between Luca and LeBron, 4 between those two players. You're expecting 16 assists from those two guys. How much was that on, other players not doing their job? How much of that was on those two just not looking for other guys? I don't have an answer for you. Where was the Lakers defense? Every shot it felt like Naz Reid took, there was enough space in between him for Naz Reid to have a cup of coffee before he took a shot. Where was JJ with his adjustment? So just a really bad game. And it's okay to point it out. Like, I think that's part of the thing that, obviously I'm sure you guys want to react to. You guys want me to just kind of have my honest opinion, my assessment of the game. Just was surprised that that was the effort that the Lakers gave up, and was surprised that that was the result of game one at Crypto in front of a crowd that was ready to explode and had nothing to really explode about. I mean, there was kind of a funny moment. Lakers, I think, got it down to 12, and the crowd was going crazy. I'm like, they're down 12, and this is what the crowd's got to cheer about. This is the best that they got, other than what, obviously was happening in the first quarter. So really just overall, really disappointing performance from the Lakers. Was really surprised that that's the effort that the Lakers gave out in a playoff game. And there's a couple of quotes that I want to play, or that I want to read off to you guys. And there's something from JJ Redick that I want to read off as well, or I'm going to actually play some video on JJ in the post game. For me, it just kind of tells a little bit about how the Lakers, when I say they got punked, when I say they got pushed around, when I use those terms as examples, you guys will obviously know what I'm talking about. But listen to JJ. And when I was doing the post game show, that was kind of one of the first things that came to my mind. It was like, damn, this is the opinion of the team. Let me set this up here to make sure that we have it, so you guys can take a look at it as well. So here's JJ after the game. Hated this. JJ was right. He was telling the truth. I just hated that this was the case for the Lakers, that, when I say Lakers got punked, that's kind of what I'm referring to. Take a listen to JJ talking about just Lakers physically weren't there.
They're one of the best teams in basketball. There's, I think, it's not to say our guys weren't like ready to withstand like a playoff level basketball game. We were mentally ready. I thought our spirit was right. I thought even when they made runs, our huddles were great. The communication was great. I'm not sure physically we were ready, if that makes sense. And really, when they started playing with a lot of thrust and physicality, like, we just didn't respond immediately to that. And then that stretch from the start of the second through, 4 or 5 minutes to go in the third, we lost that stretch by 34. So, that's a blowout.
All right, stop right there. That's the part, I didn't think we were ready physically. Physically, the Lakers weren't ready. I think, I feel like I got a good idea of the makeup of this team. And I think a lot of reasons why, we have enjoyed watching this team play. I never really questioned the effort from the Lakers. Okay, maybe you might look at a couple of times. You might say, all right, they could be a little bit better here, a little bit better there. But for the most part, I'm not really walking away from the game and it's like, hey, the Lakers just got pushed around, or another team was more physical, or the Lakers can't match the physicality. That surprised me. It really did. LeBron had a quote after the game on the physicality. By the way, the world's not going to end, and I'm going to tell everybody why it won't. But here's what he said. LeBron, after the game: maybe it took us one playoff game to now get a feel for it and know what type of intensity, the type of physicality is going to be brought to the game. But that's just the way they play. So we should be more than prepared for that on Tuesday night. Damn, you guys weren't prepared to be physical against Minnesota? How's that possible? I saw a quote here from Magic, and I know, listen, sometimes when Magic tweets out, a lot of people have their thoughts and opinions on when Magic tweets out. Tell me what Magic's wrong on this one. Tonight was one of the Lakers' worst performances this season. They were flat, had no energy, and they played like it was a regular season game. And then he said, Coach JJ Redick did a great job all season, but he didn't do a good job for game one. The Lakers stood around on offense, played too much one-on-one basketball, and he didn't make any necessary adjustments. So I'll put a bow on game one. The only other thing I want to talk about on game one is I'm going to give Minnesota some credit, and then we could, kind of start turning the page. But I think that kind of says it all, right? The physicality part, the JJ kind of calling out the team from a physical perspective. I thought Vando had some quotes where he had said something towards the end of the game or after the game, where in the fourth quarter, he felt like the Lakers were more physical. They didn't do it for the first three quarters. And then I think Magic obviously pointing out what he just did. You want to call it a feel-out game for game one, that's fine. But I think for me, if shots just don't fall, I think the Lakers committed 10 total fouls. 10 total fouls. You know what that tells me? One squad is playing Olay defense, or it just they're not trying to get into the chin of the other team. And, the other team, obviously Minnesota had a completely different style of basketball, and they were great on both sides of the floor, offensively and defensively. How surprised were you of the outcome of the game, the details of the game? I wasn't expecting it. I do get it. I understand there's a lot of Timberwolves, whether it be people who cover the team, saying that a lot of people are underestimating Minnesota. I just wasn't expecting that. How big of a shock was Saturday night to you?
When the scoreboard is showing the Lakers down by 27, that's shocking. Midway through the third quarter, where it was looking like a runaway victory, I didn't anticipate that whatsoever. I certainly thought this would be a tough series, and it's going to continue to be a tough series for the Lakers. But that was so lopsided. It was like, wait, this isn't the team that we've been seeing the last 6 weeks steadily show how much they belong in the contender conversation. When you step back from it a little bit, and talk to some people around the team, they had a terrible 6 minutes, the Lakers did, in game one. And of course, it's 48-minute game, so you can't just dismiss that and say, oh, what about the other 42 minutes? But that is how they are compartmentalizing the result of game one and moving forward, that, let's just play to our standard. If we play to our standard, it's a game. And when it's a game, we like our chances with the decision makers of LeBron James, Luca Doncic, and Austin Reeves in a possession by possession situation in the fourth quarter. So they got to get to there, right? And they never did. I know they cut it to 12 early on in the fourth, but expended a lot of energy to do so, and Minnesota was able to push it back up. I think one thing that we wondered, those of us covering the team, would maybe bite them in the butt at some point, was their 3-point defense strategy, where it's like, we're going to choose to let guys be open and dare them to shoot. When Jaden McDaniels goes free from three, it hurts you. And there was an inertia and an energy to all of the shooters. It felt like when you watch a baseball team all of a sudden get 10 runs in an inning, where it's like, all the bats were hot, all the shooters were hot. Think about, what was the best game the Lakers played this year, Alan? What would you say?
I think of Denver on the road. I think of the OKC game.
OKC. So OKC Lakers hit 23, shoot 50%.
That's right.
Deep. That's what Minnesota did to them. Any team that does that is going to look like the best team in the league. And so odds are, even if Minnesota continues to shoot well in the series, they're not going to shoot that well. And that can, kind of lessen the gap here too.
It's funny. I listening to the post game, and it was your question, and I thought it was a very interesting question. I know what you were trying to ask to Luca on the, hey, you go off and you do your thing, but because it feels like there's so much responsibility on his shoulders. Hey, not only go get the 35, but can you also make sure everybody else is flowing as well? What is, as you kind of look at Luca's first game, and I'm not, I don't think any of this from an assist perspective. I mean, him and LeBron, I think, had 4 assists total, which is that's like a stat that doesn't, aside from Luca, all these other guys kind of getting involved, getting their own, the ball moving. Just what did you think of the Lakers offense in general in that first game, and how much, not responsibility, but how much more can Luca do to also help out with whatever that flow looks like for some of these other guys?
Yeah. First, just a little context to the question I asked Luca. So, I understand when fans are disappointed by the result, emotions might come into play. It was a very by the book, straightforward question, is when you score that way, and obviously, I think he had 16 points in the first quarter or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
They have a 7-point lead. It was successful. I was not doubting it was successful. I was not doubting how great of a player Luka Doncic is. Can it affect game flow? Because quite frankly, my question was informed by having already been in the press conference with JJ Redick. When
He
JJ
mentioned
Redick,
it with Reeves.
when JJ Redick was asked about Austin's performance, he said, "Well, part of it was he wasn't getting any touches because we were going with Luca, and that's great offense for us. But so listen, there's no agenda here. The beauty of, I'm just glad that we can have this conversation. The beauty of playoffs and games matter this much is that we are still talking about the intricacies of it 2 days later, because you're playing out strategy. We're not going to Sacramento tomorrow to play a second night of a back-to-back, and we already forgot about the home game against the Grizzlies last night. Every single game matters. So as you start to pick apart what happened, it's not criticism, it's trying to understand, and it's trying to project what we could see moving forward. Now Luca said, I don't know how to answer that question. I was like, well, just does it affect game flow? He says, okay, I could probably have more than one assist. It wasn't about taking responsibility for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just trying to map out the 48 minutes. There's such a drop off in the second and third quarter. Obviously, Luca wasn't as effective as he was in the second, third quarter. Some of that was other guys now needing to get involved. Some of that maybe he doesn't have the energy to hunt and pick guys. He was great. He picked up 4 fouls on Wolves players in the first quarter. 2 on Gobert, 1 on McDaniels, 1 on Edwards. Like, that is incredible, and that can pay dividends as the game goes on too. As guys get into foul trouble, you start playing against their bench players, etc. So the strategy, I wasn't doubting. The question is, though, are there ways to do it so that Austin Reeves doesn't look so, quite frankly, lost for most of the night when we've seen him be such a vital part of this team? Now, so maybe the answer is, really, Austin was just getting swallowed up by guys like McDaniels and Randle, who are much bigger and stronger than he is. Maybe that actually is the answer, because I thought some of the shots that Austin did go to when he did start to get touches were fadeaways that really had no business going in, end of the shot clock type stuff, because he couldn't get anything better. That is not just a Luka Doncic issue. That is certainly JJ Redick and the coaching staff recognizing that we got to get Austin the ball on the move. We had set some high screens for him, so he at least has that initial thrust, and then he can deal with the size inside. All those things are to be considered here. But listen, if Luka Doncic is going to be a scorer for this team, and at 37 points per game plus, that can be a way that helps this team. They're just going to have to find other ways for the other guys to get involved.
It's interesting because I think coming into the game, I thought, and I don't know, I don't want to make it sound like, okay, hey, Rudy Gobert's, because we hear this a lot, Gobert's going to get played off the court or anything like that. I think just the matchup with the Lakers, there's going to be times where Gobert is valuable, and there's going to be other times where not every team's got a Naz Reid kind of Julius Randle combination that they can go to. I'm curious to get your opinion from the Laker perspective. Size, rebounding, we've kind of heard this before. Hey, is that going to come back to eventually haunt them? They finish out the regular season doing a phenomenal job. They get the number 3 seed. How do you think, or what is kind of the lineup that you feel like combats what Minnesota did in game 1? I don't think they're going to shoot 50% from the field or from 3-point line and the field. I don't think Jaden McDaniels is going to go, I think it was 11 of 13, but there were some things that just kind of from a physicality perspective, clearly Minnesota, that was an advantage for them. Just how do you think the Lakers combat that?
I don't think you go completely away from Jackson Hayes. I understand why JJ did it and kept with it in the second half, because Jared Vanderbilt, quite frankly, was a bit of a revelation there in the second half of the third quarter. He changed up the energy of the game, but having Jackson on the floor, one, offensively, gives Luca a lob threat, which, even if he's not actually throwing that lob, it means it's attaching a big to him. So it's giving him a little bit more space to penetrate. Defensively, McDaniels said it himself. Like, I was free to go to the hoop because they had no one protecting the rim with Hayes out. So I don't think you go completely away from him. One matchup, quite frankly, I don't think worked in the Lakers' favor was LeBron versus Randle. Randle, talk about the physicality. I thought that was seen in the LeBron matchup as well. Now, LeBron certainly met the moment in the second half and was one of the main aggressors for the Lakers, but Randle got some stuff going early, and you just wonder if that's going to, maybe you move LeBron off that where you can to, because frankly, it's a bigger, younger, stronger guy, and you want to get some of LeBron's offense too. And it's okay for us to admit that LeBron at 40 might not have the energy for 40 minutes of a playoff game with a guy like that. So that's one area I think they could do themselves a favor. I just need to see Dorian Finney-Smith activated in some manner. He only took a couple shots, made 1 3. He defensively, quite frankly, didn't have the type of impact that we're accustomed to seeing. And, I don't think it's just necessarily like, he needs to light his pants on fire and go out there and wreak havoc. But there has to be a way for him to look like the guy that was a game changer for them versus what we saw in game one. And listen, also, like, they're going to have to find ways to generate more shots. So that means not turning the ball over as often, perhaps hitting the glass a little bit more, or at least keeping the Wolves off the glass, because the shot opportunity gap was pretty significant in game one. And like that, all that does is decrease your margin for error on the shots you do get.
Final one, brother, and I appreciate you taking the time. Looking forward to game 2 tomorrow. What should we expect? I mean, just kind of coming off of game 1, and I felt like the Lakers, you heard JJ, you heard LeBron say it, they just kind of physicality-wise, they were completely outplayed from that perspective. I feel almost more confident about the Lakers the more desperate maybe the situation is. What do you expect in game 2?
Yeah, Slee, the beauty of, we have talked about the fact this is a 3-6 series. It's not really a 3-6 series because one team at 50 wins, the other team at 49. But home court advantage is still home court advantage. And they get to be back at Crypto on Tuesday night. The place is going to be nuts. The Lakers will be on high alert. JJ Redick's going to be bleary-eyed from barely sleeping because he's going to be, tinkering with the schemes and whatever he can do strategy-wise to get this team ready. Like, they're going to play a better brand of basketball. Like, as I said, someone within the team told me we just didn't play up to our standard for 6 minutes in game 1. That's not going to happen in game 2. Like, they'll be quicker to adjust to stuff because they will have the desperation staring them in the face. You fall down 0-2 to this team, you're probably saying goodnight to your season. So it's just the circumstances will warrant a better effort. And again, it wasn't like they laid down. Like, again, the Wolves hit 21 threes. Like, you're going to lose that game. You're going to lose that game. So they probably regress a little bit back to the mean. The Wolves do. And, I think the Lakers even this thing out, and we're in a battle all the way through the rest of the series.
All right, thank you very much for watching the clip. Just want to give a shout out here to one of our partners, the Wallace Firm. They are official injury attorney of the Sliwa Show and Hoops Talk, the entire channel. If you are ever in a need, and I hope you're not, but some type of serious injury with yourself or a family member of yours, I would like to personally help you by introducing you to the best in the business, Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. Also got a URL out here that you can use as well. Just go to wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Thank you for their partnership, and thank you for being a part of the Sliwa Show.